Hey everyone, welcome back to the Collector's Compass, the official podcast of Collectors MD, where we explore the intersection of collecting, mental wellness, and responsible engagement across the modern hobby and beyond. I'm your host, Alyx Efron, founder of Collectors MD, and today's conversation is about technology, but not in the hype-driven sense. It's about infrastructure. It's about the tools and systems that quietly shape how collectors experience the hobby every day, how we organize, value, manage, and ultimately interact with the things we collect. My guest today is Phillip, the founder of an app called HobbyScan. HobbyScan is a platform designed to help collectors identify, value, and list their cards to eBay through a single streamlined workflow. In a hobby that has become increasingly fast-paced and data-driven, Phillip built HobbyScan around a simple idea: remove the friction so collectors can actually enjoy the hobby instead of constantly managing it. Phillip has also been a supporter of the work we're doing here at Collectors MD and currently sits on our advisory board. His perspective sits at a really interesting intersection: technology, collector behavior, and the evolving infrastructure of the hobby itself. This episode isn't about tech or for tech's sake. It's about how tools can create clarity. It's about how better systems can help collectors engage more intentionally. And it's about exploring what happens when innovation and responsibility actually move in the same direction. Phillip, really glad to have you here, man. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Let's dive right in. So our first segment is called the Builder's Origin Story. So every product usually starts with, some frustration or a problem someone experienced personally. When you look back at the early stages of HobbyScan, what was the moment where you realized collectors needed better tools to manage what they own?
Yeah, so my son, like most people, I'm 46, so like most people, like in their 40s, 50s, 30s, whatever. When you have kids, they are into Pokemon or sports cards, and then you're like, oh yeah, I got my cards in the basement, you know, and we just had a blast, going through my cards and getting fresh cards for my son, and when you're going through that process, I mean, we used to look through Beckett's back in the day, but I'm like, oh, what's going on nowadays? Like, what are people using? So I'm in technology first and foremost. So, I wanted to create something, for our user experience. I want to be able to like go through a bunch of cards quickly. I don't want to hold the phone for a long time. I want to put the phone down and I want it all to process while I'm penny sleeving, move on to the next one, top loader, whatever. And so we built it just around how we do it and how we want it for ourselves. And we just didn't see that being done the way we wanted at the time, basically.
Gotcha. And when was this again?
Not that long ago. I feel like we went live with iOS in June, so it's less than a year.
Awesome. And is the app available on other platforms beyond iOS?
Oh, for sure, iOS and Android. And it's self-funded and it's organically growing pretty quickly. People are, you know, downloading it daily, and it's growing.
Awesome. Do you have an idea off the top of your head? And if it's proprietary, you don't have to share.
Good.
But do you have an idea of how many users you currently have?
Oh, I would say it's under 50,000.
I mean, that's incredibly impressive. 50,000 within just, I don't know, what is that, 6 to 8 months?
Yeah, I mean we've had spikes. There's maybe 100 people a day who download it organically. There's different spikes from different, like, maybe we host or sponsor a trade show, or
Sure.
maybe somebody does a social media post or something like that that gives a bigger spike. But organically, just like chugging along, there's a good amount of people every day that download it.
Love it. Awesome. Well, that's really impressive, Phillip. And we're going to get a little bit more into the app and how it works and what kind of tools and resources it can offer to collectors. But I do have a few more questions, just sort of related to your origin story within the hobby. So, for a long time, collecting was pretty analog, right? We're talking about like binders and boxes and spreadsheets, maybe a notebook with value scribbled in it. What did you see happening in the hobby that made a tool like HobbyScan feel so necessary?
Um, well, Doc Collectibles, he said, when I was showing him Hobby Skin, he said something like less work, more hobby, because we want to take the labor out of it. I think it's like it's a labor intensive thing that we love, that we like. It's a weird world where you love like the time you put into your collection and hobby, and all of it is just like astronomical for like probably the return, but it's like you love the process. So I just wanted to take I just wanted to take the labor out a little bit, right?
Totally.
Um, it's a very labor intensive. I don't even remember your question at this point, but it's a very labor intensive love, you know.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah, I mean, when we talk about what we embody at Collectors MD when it comes to collecting, we call it intentional collecting. A lot of people assume it's just about having a more discipline or a a focused mindset, right? Things like sticking to a budget, slowing down, or thinking before you buy. And those things absolutely matter and are the foundation for being an intentional collector. But in reality, I think mindset alone usually isn't enough. The environment we're collecting in moves incredibly fast, and without the right tools, it becomes very difficult to stay grounded. And that's where hobby tools like HobbyScan become so important, right? One of the biggest challenges collectors face today is simply just keeping track of what they actually own, because there's just so much volume. And when you're ripping these boxes, box after box or break after break, and you have all of these different packages coming in the mail, it can be so hard to stay organized,
Mhm.
right? And so without organization, your collection can just become a blur. And when you don't have that clarity, it becomes so much easier to keep chasing new things instead of really appreciating or managing what you already have. And
Yeah,
so,
I love like I mean, just in my own weird little system, and I'm sure it's similar to many, but I just love like scanning everything and putting things in penny sleeves. I enjoy sleeving. I enjoy penny sleeving. I think it's like for me, it's like my bonsai tree. I always say it's just like this beautiful, calm thing that happens. You zone out. You know, it's funny because we're in technology and we built this software, but like we built this software so you're using less technology, hopefully.
right.
And I just like having a lot of time spent on just sleeving things, organizing them, then kind of moving them down the line. And I love like going back to a box from a year ago or however amount, and then checking those again and seeing where those grew and went. Or let's say you hear of some player like, oh yeah, I wonder what's going on with that person. Oh yeah, I have a couple of these. I mean, the whole process is just enjoyable. It's it's very tedious though. So we're really focused on building tools that make it easier for you to enjoy the hobby. Uh,
Awesome.
yeah, we built
Yeah.
this for Steiner. We built this bulk scanning thing because they have a huge collection of like 4 million cards they got from that one guy. And so we built this thing where it's kind of like a Car Dealer Pro, and there's another one I forgot how to pronounce their name. But we have that's just internal right now. It's probably live internal at like uh, dev.hobbyscan.com/bulk. But we let you do bulk, and then you can post to eBay or whatever. And then we're really excited right now because we're opening up a hobby shop in Lake Forest, Illinois.
Yep.
And I want that for a lot of reasons. The community is awesome, but for me, I really want to solve the inventory management system that people have. Because I'm not going to use it if it makes me work too hard, but RAI can just identify an object, add it to the inventory, and then have dynamic pricing on the floor and get away from pricing everything. Because you go into some of these shops and it's like you can't keep up with pricing all these cards. It's way too much work. And I'm super obsessed about solving problems for the hobby right now.
Yeah, 100%. And like, when I grew up, when you grew up, like we didn't have this type of technology that could optimize our experience, right? And I think even the most traditional hobbies like card collecting, which has been around for what, hundreds of years, it doesn't have to stay frozen in time, right? I think we really can lean into modern technology, which can enhance the experience by giving collectors and enthusiasts better tools to research, organize, and make thoughtful decisions, right? Platforms that provide things like pricing data and pop reports and scanning tools and collection tracking allow people to engage with their collecting experience more intentionally, right? Rather than just relying purely on the hype or the guesswork. And when used responsibly, used the right way, I think technology doesn't, replace the heart of the hobby like a lot of people tend to think. It simply just gives people clear information and better guardrails so that they can
Right.
enjoy it longer.
I agree. Um, yeah, I mean, it's how long have you been collecting?
I've been collecting my entire life.
Yeah. So
I
you didn't
collected.
stop at all?
No, I didn't. So I collected cards as a kid, obviously, amongst a handful of other things, ranging from Funko, or no, Funko was later, but like Beanie Babies and Pogs and action figures. I don't know if you remember these guys, the tech
Oh
decks.
yeah, I remember
I
those.
loved these. I still
That
have a
wasn't even
few
that long
that I
ago,
fidget
right?
with at my desk.
Right,
What's
right. I
that?
remember those. Was that like
Yeah.
20 years ago, 15 years ago, or?
I mean, I'm 36, and so I remember being like 8 or 9 years old and being obsessed with those.
Oh, right on.
So yeah, I mean, I had a whole collection of those. And so growing up, like,
Micro machines. I have a micro. Sorry to interrupt you. I have a micro machine collection from when I was a kid,
wow,
and it's in that like semi front like holder box that's flat because they're all little tiny ones, whatever.
yeah,
Micro machines are awesome. I
yeah,
don't know. You don't remember them probably. I'm
yeah.
10 years
But
older.
for my time, but that's the beauty of it. There's so many different avenues that you can explore as a collector, as an enthusiast. There's so many subcultures, and with those subcultures comes community and camaraderie and an opportunity just to really enjoy um, different activities, right? And so my grandfather growing up, he was a huge watch collector. He loved the luxury timepieces. And I just remember, going to his my grandparents' house as a kid and just marveling at his collection and hoping that maybe one day he would pass one down to me. And so I think that really is what created that fire in me to just want to collect. And like my uncle still to this day collects vintage Porsches and takes them to the racetrack. And he also collects telescopes. Like he's big into astronomy. So it's something that I think has been sort of embedded into the DNA of my family. And so as I got older, I got into things like memorabilia and sneakers. I collected sneakers throughout my entire 20s. At one point, had over 500 pairs, which is crazy. And then I got back into the sports card collecting during the pandemic. So
Is your grandfather still with us? Is he
he's
alive?
not. He passed away when I was in college.
Did he give you a watch?
He did. Yep, and I still have it. Yeah, he gave me a beautiful Longines. Yeah, he had this beautiful gold Rolex. I want to say it was a Yachtmaster, and that's the one I wanted, obviously. But he gave it to my mom's younger brother, his son, so it makes sense. And he had a lot of grandkids, so I'm very grateful and fortunate to have one of them. Yeah,
I know a
so
lot about watches, but like anything, the more you learn about them, the more you appreciate, everything. I love the card aspect of it because, like, it's just easy to have in your hand. Like, I could never do the shoes because it's awesome, but like it's a lot to deal with and a lot of space it takes. You can have a drawer of cards, and have a great collection. Shoes, so much space. Records, so much space.
the sneakers were a big problem for me, not just because they cost a lot of money, but because, like you said, they take up a lot of space. And I was moving from like apartment to apartment throughout my 20s. And so every single time I'd move, I would have to, take the entire collection with me. And so I'd have to hire movers with a massive truck. It would take me literally days, sometimes weeks, just to pack them all up. I'm quickly just trying to pull up a picture. Yeah, this was actually from a daily reflection that I wrote in May, almost a year ago now. But I had spoken about my collection. So let me just share that real quick. So you kind of get the gist. This was my bedroom in Hoboken. Yeah. And this was just one wall. I don't think that was the only picture I posted here, but this was just one wall. I mean, it was every corner of the home, just trying to find space to store, the latest release, the latest pickup. And
Did you wear them too?
some of them, but for the most part, no. I mean, look how many pairs that is. Like, for me to wear them, I had a pair for every day of the year and then some, like, so it was more so for collecting.
It's cool. I never got it just because I was like, I don't want to deal with it. But I mean, there's beautiful shoes.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, they're tied to sports and sports culture the same way cards are.
That's
So,
true.
the right side, literally this entire right wall are all just Jordans. And Michael Jordan is synonymous with sneakers now
From
because
Chicago, I know. I
he
I
he
went to
changed
1992
everything.
Trailblazers game. I know.
Yeah, he changed everything for the sneaker culture. Um, you
Michael
know,
Jordan changed everything for basketball. I mean, people, when I was a kid and we traveled to other countries, like Michael Jordan made other countries get into basketball.
yeah, yeah. He was what's the word?
And he changed the
He was
business
a,
model
he
of
was
sneakers, which we all
you
know now.
mentioned the Blazers. He was a trailblazer.
True.
He really was a pioneer in a lot of ways for the sport of basketball. All right, I want to get us back on track.
Yeah.
I do have a few more questions, or actually just one more pertaining to segment one, which is when collectors start using HobbyScan, what tends to surprise them the most about the experience?
Um, I think people really enjoy how you kind of just move on one to the next and you're just scanning and it's doing the work in the background. I think they also appreciate that, like, without pressing any buttons, it's showing you like raw and all the different grade variations and pricing without having to press too many buttons. I don't want too many steps. I think, for me, it's really about like taking a bunch of pictures and then looking at all my options. I don't want to just know raw. I want to know like if it's a nine, without me having to do a lot of work or press a lot of buttons. Then we let you click off to eBay directly because we're like, you know, look for yourself. If we're
Yeah,
wrong, take a peek. And then at the very least, it's pulling up the last sold search. So it's just one button, and then you're already looking at what you would manually do that everybody trusts and likes and uses, I guess.
right,
So Bergie, where I buy cards from in Highland Park, his shop, um, he uh, he looks stuff up on eBay. It's hard to get him to use technology. So I kind of built it around Bergie, and I kind of built it around my son and I. So it's like the old school, like I just want you to identify and go to eBay instead of typing it in. Or
right.
we identify, I think, better than I think most people. You can put it to a test, but you know, I'm surprised PSA doesn't identify as well as we do because they have card ladder, and you can see when you submit to PSA, you can see that the ads on the bottom get it. The ads know what it is,
Right.
literally, but then PSA doesn't. But then they have card ladder, and card ladder is good. They do a good job. I don't enjoy the user experience for like just going through a bunch, but if I wasn't using my app, I'd use card ladder. But yeah, PSA did not figure that out. Either way, yeah.
Cool. Cool. Yeah. And just to put a bow on this segment, the hobby has always been emotional, right? But the infrastructure around it hasn't always kept up. Collecting has always been driven by nostalgia and fandom and the thrill of the chase. And, those emotions are part of what makes the hobby meaningful. But as the hobby has grown faster and louder and more expensive, the tools and the systems supporting collectors haven't always been able to evolve at the same pace. And so, it's just great that there are options out there. I mean, you mentioned a few: Card Ladder, there's Market Movers. We had the founder of an app called Slaptrack on the show not too long ago. And so it's great that hobbyists and collectors have the opportunity now to pick what makes the most sense for their specific collecting experience and then layer it into how they collect. So we're going to transition over to segment two, which is technology and the collector
Oh,
experience.
I was gonna say not to like plug whatever, but like if anybody watching like doesn't want to pay or whatever, like if they ping me, I'll give them a free promo.
Yeah,
They don't
awesome.
have to ever pay or whatever.
Awesome. Well, that's very generous of you, Philip, and we'll
Sure.
definitely get there. Don't worry. We're gonna plug.
No worries.
We're gonna plug HobbyScan and let the audience know how they can find you. So, for people who may not be familiar with HobbyScan yet, why don't you walk us through what the workflow actually looks like? Like, what happens from the moment someone scans a card?
Well, when you scan the card, we could make it a little quicker, but we reference like 40 images. So we're like reverse image searching on eBay and pulling, averages of last sold. And so, you know, I think if you're using it the first time, you might be like, oh, hey, this is taking a second. It's not that long, but it's taking a second. But I think we need to do a better job of explaining to them that you can move on to the next one. You can keep moving, and then you'll see them drop in. So like if I scan one, two, three, four, and once I'm on like three or four, one's dropping in, two's dropping in, three dropping in, and the pricing's happening on the bottom, and it has a good flow like that. Because for us, I think it was more important to be accurate on the description, which I think we do really well. Um, but it's pretty efficient. It's fast. You basically click through, and then you see on the grid under each card, raw PSA 10 to 1, BGS 10 to 1. As you see, all the companies. We let you submit to C3. I think C3 is doing a great job. I love their slabs. They're beautiful. I really wish that the whole grading world wasn't so one-sided. It's so unusual because I mean you can see if a card's a good card. Sometimes, someone like C3 I think does a better job at it because they're boutique enough to take care of it and do it the right way. But we let you submit to C3 directly through HobbyScan.
Cool.
And we've talked to other grading companies about using our tech because we do identify really well. And so even if you weren't using it for comps, you should probably use it for at least identification. Um, but we also give you, AI on the what we think it would grade. But I think we do a really good job of that. But we don't really put it front and center because who am I to say, this is going to be a 9 or a 10 or an 8 or a 7?
Sure.
Because there's too many variables. There's like lighting and your camera and how you're holding it, and we don't want to be in that world as much, because it's kind of a fun thing to use. If you want to take it very seriously and like take the right picture in the right lighting in the right way, I think we do a great job of that. And we can focus on that in the future if we need to. Um, and then you post to eBay. So basically, I identify, value, and sell. You know,
Yeah. Is there a particular reason why you partnered with C3?
they have beautiful slabs and they're approachable, and I like what he's doing.
Cool.
And I think I'm eager to solve lots of problems in this hobby with technology. I enjoy
Right.
it. So I talked to CGC. They love what we were doing. They decided they're going to build their own or whatever. I hope they come back to us. We'll see what happens. Um, I've talked to a lot of different people. I want to work with Beckett so badly.
Yeah.
Like, I want to make. I mean, well, Beckett's PSA now, but
Right.
it
All
basically
collectors.
that's what I was wishing because Beckett has our nostalgia. Like we all love old school Beckett, and they just missed the mark on technology. They
Yeah.
like
Have
outsource it all, and it's just not good, unfortunately. But it'll get better.
yeah.
PSA does a good job with tech. They have a good user experience.
We have some contacts over at Beckett, so might be able to get you in touch with the right folks. We could table that for offline. But
I even
have
say I'll
you?
do it for free. I just want to
Yeah,
do it. You
yeah.
know,
Have you gotten in touch with Tag?
we are with Tag in Canada starting out. So
Oh,
if you
cool.
if you're in Canada and you're on our app HobbyScan, the Tag button shows up.
Nice.
So
Yeah,
we
I've
already have a
always
partnership with
been.
Tag Canada.
I met those guys at the National in 2023. Different line of work. I was in advertising sales for a sports media publisher, and I was talking to them about potentially working together around some advertising and marketing. So I got to meet the founders, the brothers, and kind of just fell in love with their slabs. Like they're just really,
They're beautiful.
really. The clarity is really good on them, and I love the whole concept of AI. And I like that they don't use like a paper slip as part of the grade. It's kind of
It's
just
beautiful.
yeah, it's printed right on the plastic or whatever material they use. So
I love that. What's that Japanese company that you can't see the grade until you look on the back? and they put the information on the bottom of the slab. So like the art of the card is like the most important thing, not the grade.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Is that
Really smart. Leave it to the
that
Japanese.
ARS grading?
I think so. No, there's an ARS here, I think. I know the guy from Collectors Club or something has an ARS shop or some production happening in his store. It's a something.
I think it's ARS.
Maybe you're right.
I
AGS is
just
the
looked
other
it up
one.
on Google Image, and
Looks
yeah,
like PSA,
it's
but
it's. I'll actually pull it up on the screen real quick just
super
to
cool.
show our audience. But that's what you're talking about, right?
It's cool. I love how the grade is not on the front.
Yeah,
So you
comes
look
with
at
a
the
little
card, you're like,
certificate,
boom, you give respect to the card first.
right?
It's a 9, it's a 10, it's 7. Now we're just so stuck on that number.
I know.
Let's appreciate
It's
the
weird
card.
though, because like our brains are wired to look at slabs a certain way, and to
Yeah,
me, I can't look at that and not feel like it's upside down and the card has been put in there upside
that's
down.
true. That's
Yeah,
true.
but no,
But
I mean, if you get
I
used
think
to it,
for other companies, someone should consider putting the grade on the back.
yeah. I wonder if that's a bumper or if that's like a part of the slab. But what I was going to say is like with the beauty of having multiple options, especially when it comes to grading, is that everybody collects differently. Everybody has their own tastes. Everybody likes to organize their cards in a certain way. Some people don't even like grading and they just decide to display their cards in a nice acrylic or a one touch or, there's so many options now in terms of being able to display your cards. But those that like to grade, some of them might not want a PSA slab because that's what everyone else has. So they find one of these boutique companies and, all their cards are in those slabs and they have no intention of ever selling them. And so that's the beauty of
For
what
sure.
we talk about every day here at Collectors MD, the whole concept of intentional collecting.
I see those
So
videos from the card father from Burbank, and he always says it's my favorite thing. Like he has like boxes of every grading company,
right.
but he keeps them all in a box, and there's so many. I mean, right now there's like a handful that we talk about, but there's a lot.
Yeah, and a lot of them have gone out of business and are no longer. And like, maybe one day cards in a certain slab of a grading company that no longer exists, maybe that'll add value. It'll be like a relic because you can no longer put a card in or
Right.
encapsulate a card in this particular slab or with this particular grading company. So that's not something I've never even thought about. But like, let's just say hypothetically, when Beckett was acquired by Collectors, they decided to phase Beckett out and Beckett no longer was grading cards. Now every card that's in a Beckett slab, I feel like
Right.
would increase in value because you can't grade with Beckett anymore. And so
For
having
sure.
a black label or even a gold label or pristine 10, which
Becomes
doesn't
like
exist,
vintage
like
thing, yeah.
that could potentially go up. Anyway,
I think I not we don't have to keep going into grading, but I think C3 is gonna make a mark. I think they're you should talk to him. I don't know if you have yet.
yeah, I haven't actually,
Talk to
but
Eddie. Yeah, he's
yeah.
got some cool stuff happening, and I think they're gonna be a contender at some point.
Cool. Yeah. Some of the bigger players have been tough to get in front of, but like I mentioned, we've spoken to Beckett. We've gotten in touch with Tag among several others, just really looking to partner with as many hobby brands and entities as possible to support the mission of intentional collecting. So on that front, do you think, as technology improves, it allows for collectors to be more intentional? Like, I'd love to hear your POV on that.
Allows for collectors to be more intentional. Um,
Because I guess the argument can be made that technology, kind of creates a sense of velocity in the hobby, and that velocity can turn into compulsion, right? So while there's a lot of apps and platforms that exist that are intended to help collectors, enjoy the experience more fluidly, like we were just talking about,
Mhm.
it also can create a sense of, overwhelm. There's just so many options. There's
the
the hobby's moving
national
so fast because of modern day technology.
the national was an amazing way to see all of it like in one
Yeah,
room.
yeah,
Where you
yeah.
go to like the whatnot area, it was just like crazy fun, but it was just out of control.
Right.
And then you go to like the old school guys who are still like bringing
Vintage.
over like all this old school stuff. And then you have the in between. But I mean, it was brilliant to watch all the generations all under one roof. Um, and it's fascinating because this resurgence of of, you know, dads, I guess, and their kids,
Yeah.
this ethic. It's what excites me. It's like,
Yeah.
so for us, we're intentional, I guess, in the sense that we buy what we like and we enjoy ripping and sending out and and solving problems around it. We're about to go into it in a different way where we have a card shop, so we're going to end up buying lots of things that maybe we wouldn't normally buy.
Yeah.
um but I guess rephrase your question so I can answer it. I don't know if I got away from that question.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I think you did a good job of illustrating a lot of what the hobby looks like today, but it's really, do you think technology has the potential to make collectors more intentional despite the fact that there are so many options and technology has sort of propelled the hobby into this fast lane where everything is just in your face 24/7, everything's highly targeted, obviously the breaking exists because of modern day technology. Now you have
Yeah.
AI as a component. Who knows what's gonna, happen with the hobby in 5, 10 years from now as AI evolves. So
For sure. I mean, it's hard because when I'm trying to answer your question, my brain starts thinking, part of it, yes. Then I start thinking about like how much is just going quickly on, live stream and, so it's hard. It depends
yeah,
on what type of collector you are.
yeah,
If you're always trying to, chase and run and whatever, then you're gonna keep running and you're gonna
right.
keep chasing, and that's just the lifestyle you either chose or you're trying to get out of.
Yeah, and
Um,
to your point, it's definitely layered, right? Because there are different types of technology where like some are useful and allow collectors to be more intentional with their purchasing decisions and, the just like overall how they collect. But then there are others that are predatory and can create more risk and more danger for a lot of people, especially younger collectors who are highly impressionable and lean on the influence of platforms to make these purchasing decisions, right? So at the end of the day, I think technology should help collectors spend less time managing the hobby and more time enjoying it, but we also have to proceed with caution because again,
Yeah,
there's
I mean,
just so much
everybody has
out
to have their own self-control too. I mean, but it's like that in a lot of industries in general. I mean,
there. Right.
my daughter, she likes Sony Angels, and 5 years ago she loved LOL dolls, and it's the same mystery, excitement.
Yeah.
Cards are like that, where you don't know where you're gonna get. You do love this brand or sport, and you want to see what you're gonna get, and that can become, too much, and you have to kind of either self-regulate or get help, but you can't have too much sugar. You can't
Of
do
course.
too
Yeah.
much of anything.
Yeah.
So
Um, I was on a show, a podcast last week. I don't know if you know Boston Card Hunter,
yeah,
Nick,
for sure. I
Nick
spoke to him on the phone.
Andrews. Yeah, he's great. And there was a question that he asked me that pertains to what we're talking about, really more so about the platforms, but I think what we're talking about applies here. And the question was, do breakers and platforms, and I guess you could say technology, have a moral responsibility, or is this 100% personal accountability, which is what you're talking about? And the way I answered it is that it's both, right? It's always both. Individuals are responsible for their own choices, especially adults, right? That doesn't just disappear.
Mhm.
But systems are designed around things like FOMO and
Oh yeah.
urgency and scarcity and this constant access. So, those types of things aren't neutral, and they don't get to pretend to be neutral. They
When
know
you have,
exactly what drives engagement, right? And breakers especially know
yeah,
exactly how to drive hype when design choices intentionally reduce friction and increase create things like impulse and FOMO. Responsibility
if
doesn't
you
just
have a lot of
disappear.
investors and it's a money driven, company like most companies, I think, you know, those guardrails, aren't always there because there's a large amount of money and a group of people that want to make more money and whatever.
Yeah,
I think, it's hard to kind of control that when it gets that big sometimes. And in most companies, in cases, we deal with that in food, we deal with that in everything. I do have a theory of how I want to build a live shopping platform. Just my theory, because in the beginning, I was turned off by all that. You know what I mean? It was like kind of like this is out of control.
Yeah.
But then, we got into it a little bit, and I do have a theory, and I'm going to build something with live shopping next after my inventory management control system and POS system stuff for the stores. And I'm going to focus on shops, um, and like only letting shops in. And I feel like a lot of the old school shops like don't want to jump over there. There's a lot of new shops that are just that mostly. Um, I don't know if I'm being too vague here, but I do have my own theories of how I would like to do live shopping to keep it, a business, but not, you know, but have some basically guardrails just on how the culture is and how we do it. But you know,
Gotcha.
it's hard to impose that viewpoint on a private company that's making a ton of money.
Right, right. What I was getting at before when I was just explaining to you how I responded to that question is that at the end of the day, we can ask people to be accountable and ask the systems to stop pretending they don't shape outcomes. You know, that's what it really comes down to. It's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of
Like,
personal
what do you mean shape
accountability,
outcomes as far as like how people are selling?
just these frictionless environments that allow people to end up in a position where they're so far down the purchase funnel where
Yeah.
it becomes practically impossible not to tap the auction or the bid button within one of those environments, or just kind of become a sucker to the urgency that a breaker is driving within a live experience, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
So
it made me flash back to like old QVC stuff where they're like,
yeah,
you gotta get this Tupperware set,
if you
or
don't get it now, you're never going to get the chance again. They've been
yeah,
using those tactics for decades, right? Like you get
for
the
sure.
empty cart emails and the 24-hour promo. If you don't act now, you're never going to have this opportunity to get
What
the.
would you recommend they do? Like if you own Whatnot tomorrow, what do you do?
We bake in guardrails. We bake in, messaging around ripping responsibly and letting people
Remember when
know.
TikTok first started taking off, someone would like come on and be like, "Hey, I think you should take a nap" or something like.
Yeah,
Someone would
yeah,
show up and
we've
be like, "You might need a timeout." I was like, "What? This is so
yeah.
smart."
I don't want to. I want
You
to
remember
keep
that at
moving
all?
because I know we're limited on time. But I want to show you something real quick because I think this is something that is relevant. But we've already started working with a lot of breakers and hobby shops around the Rip Responsibly initiative. And so, what the Rip Responsibly initiative is basically a broad message, a campaign for shops, for breakers to be able
Sure.
to remind customers that at the end of the day, this is about entertainment. And if things are starting to spiral, just know that tools and resources exist. And so a lot of breakers that we're working with are sort of operating or leveraging that message in different ways. And so this is, for instance, what Jeff Wilson and Cards HQ has running before each break across all of their live platforms. This is a 30-second clip.
A Cards HQ break. Here you can expect fun shows with a great community, a family-friendly vibe, no sales pressure, and some really big hits. We're thrilled you're here, and we always want you to rip with us responsibly. If you ever feel like you're too caught up in the action and the fun starts to slip away, take a moment to pause. Our responsible ripping partner, Collectors MD, has free resources and support available anytime you need them. Thanks for hanging out with us, and now let's get ripping.
So
Oh,
you
I
get
love
the
that.
idea.
He's always doing a good job.
Yeah.
I love that you did that. That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's the type of messaging and guardrails we're talking about. And, it's starting to catch some momentum. There's a lot of people noticing that some of these big breakers are using our break mats that say Rip Responsibly on them. You can kind of see it behind me. It's blurry, but we have these break mats, we have backdrops, we have card stands, and it's really intended to just subtly layer in that messaging so that collectors know that, hey, at the end of the day, this is a frictionless environment, and it can get out of hand quickly if you're not careful. It's an
No,
expensive
it's really
hobby.
smart
These
what you're
boxes are
doing.
expensive, so that's sort of what we have in mind from a guardrails perspective. So I want to transition over to our next segment, which is data, value, and clarity. Right. So one of the biggest challenges collectors face is understanding the value in terms of like the comp. Sometimes it's not just about the financial value. I want to caveat that should be about your personal connection with the card and what it means to you. But comps change constantly, right? Markets fluctuate, and a lot of people feel like a lot of the times they're just guessing. So, how does HobbyScan help bring clarity to that side of collecting?
I mean, for the most part, we're just taking last sold averages of 40 cards, really. If it's there from TCG Player and eBay, and just doing the best we can and allowing you to refresh the price or click to the source. Um, and if it exists on the internet on those platforms, we should be able to share it.
Awesome. And what happens when collectors have better information about what they actually own?
Um, they could make better decisions on pulling something out that they might want to sell, or if something goes up a certain percentage point, they might, put an alert on to say, you know, this is what's trending, this is maybe I can sell this one and not have to go back and look at everything and have it kind of work for me as far as data goes.
Right. Yeah. Like I had mentioned before, a part of the challenge is that the market itself, the sports card market, it's volatile, right? Like you can't predict a player getting injured or a scandal happening. And quite often these comps change on a nightly basis, right? Cade Cunningham drops 40 points and suddenly, his market 2x's like overnight, right? Like it's all about hype and relevance. And so, very similar to the stock market or crypto markets, the sports card market is just as volatile, and the ebbs and flows are there. And so you could buy a card for $100, and by the time it arrives from eBay, the card could be worth 40, right? Because a lot of it has to do with the hype and the current release cycle or whatever is coming out that day or that week. And so a lot of collectors don't realize that, and they're not patient because they are watching a break and they see a big hit and they're like feeling that sense of FOMO. Like I should have gotten into the break. I knew I would have gotten the Pistons. And if I had got the Pistons, I would have hit that Cade auto or whatever the case may be. And so they end up going on eBay, trying to find the card and then overpaying because they just need to scratch that itch. And by the time it comes in the mail, they regret it. So I think, again, like having the opportunity to use data and technology to better understand, to provide more clarity around what you are actually collecting, what are the trends, what have other similar cards done, over time, right? And so do you think better data ultimately leads to better decisions in the hobby?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, data can't hurt. I mean, even with like grading, I think people overgrade sometimes, where it's like, oh, it's $100 if it's a 10. Well, it's like 22 if it's 9, and you just lost money, even though it looks like a 10. Like data helps you understand that. Like you want to look at all your options of what you have to make decisions. For me, like when when we started collecting again, like from grade school to like last 5, 6 years or whatever, we're not, my son and I are really like selling. Like we're not like flipping and like trying to make money on the cards as much as like enjoying the cards, grading the ones we want, and then having a collection. And I would say 99% of the cards I've sold have been to like Bergie at the local card shop, and it wasn't even financial really. It's more like he's helping me, and whatever comps are he wants, whatever. Like we're not even negotiating. I don't care.
Yeah.
So I'm like not the best to explain like the whole from personal experience of like selling and profiting off my own cards. For me, the I enjoy opening and keeping and collecting, um, I don't know if I'm getting off track there, but
No, you hit the nail on the head. I think at the end of the day, just having the clarity, having the knowledge, having the data, it just helps create confidence in knowing that how you're collecting is sort of staying in line with that intentionality that we always talk about. So I want to talk about the blind box economy. You had sent me, and I had seen it, but the white paper that Josh Luber just published, the whole concept of blind boxification, right? You mentioned some of the dolls. There's obviously the Labubu craze with Pop Mart. So I think it's one of the biggest conversations happening in the collectible space right now is around what some people call the blind box economy or the dopamine economy. And so the white paper that Josh Luber published was called The Blind Boxification of Everything, and it explores how modern industries increasingly rely on randomness, scarcity, and chase mechanics to drive engagement. So from your vantage point, Philip, does building tools for collectors, do you feel like the hobby has become more about the chase than the objects themselves?
Probably. I mean, I'm thinking of my son because the kids are a good example to like analyze how they're acting, and like there's certain things that he wants, but I feel like even when we open cards, I don't even know if he cares about them anymore. Not to like throw him under the bus like that, but like it's like I think he enjoys the chase more, and we all enjoy it, but like than the actual like card. I mean,
Yeah.
And so I think that that's potentially an issue for sure,
Yeah.
and we have certain things where I want him to appreciate, like, like the first card we ever graded was his Japanese Charizard, the first card we ever graded, we sent it out to PSA. I got it for him for Christmas like 6-7 years ago. I don't know when it was. And I told him like that card's priceless because that's the first card, so it's like, but I look at his collection and I don't think he cares. I think he doesn't really care about his collection as much as he does just opening new ones.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people don't know this or totally understand it, but the dopamine hit itself actually takes place before the card is revealed, not after. It's always fleeting, right? The high always wears off, which is why you end up feeling that
once
desire.
You see it, then you go down. It's
exactly.
Like,
even if it's a great hit, even if it's one of the best hits you've ever.
Because then you gotta then you're waiting for the next. So
yeah,
that makes sense.
None of what we're talking about here from an addiction or compulsive standpoint is theory for me. Everything is from my own lived experience, which is what led me to create Collectors MD, so I could help other people prevent, the same behaviors.
It should be a conversation because it's a big thing. No one talks about it. A card shop that I know said they stopped carrying so much wax because, they were like a long time ago, like they were like spotting their friends, and it became like a thing where like he felt responsible. Like, holy shit, I'm responsible for like, people that want, more and more wax, and no, that world exists and no one talks about it a lot. And I appreciate that you're, making it normal to talk about because, everybody I'm sure deals with it in some way. And so it should be a normal thing to talk about for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a great point. I think breakers specifically, right? Like they feel this sense of responsibility at times that they affect kind of like the downstream impact that this activity is happening, or this what's happening to their customers is harmful. And so they feel a sense of, guilt in a lot of ways, because they'll, quite often customers walk away empty handed, or they're, really bummed out that they spent all this money and came up with nothing. And it's like, some breakers try to make it right, or like, they throw them a freebie or do this, that, the other. But at the end of the day, again, it's so slippery. It's such a slippery slope because once you start chasing that dopamine high, like the dopamine doesn't care about the labels. It doesn't care if you call yourself an addict or a degenerate. It cares about the patterns. And the live breaks are built on things like anticipation and suspense and the near misses and the social reinforcement, right? And those are the exact ingredients that casinos and sports books use. And they rely on that because that's what causes the reward system to light up. So again,
go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to say, yeah, like the spike happens before the card is revealed, not after.
That makes sense.
And that's why Jason.
I was just curious. Are you like card free, or do you buy cards still, or what's going on?
I have a very curated collection. It is literally under, it's under 60 or so cards. At one point, I had just like the sneakers. I had tens of thousands of cards stacked to the ceiling in Zion cases. I've completely consolidated. I've sold off pretty much everything. Same thing with the sneakers, which you see what's left of my collection behind me.
Do you open packs anymore? Or?
Not really. I mean, like a couple weeks ago, I was at Barnes & Noble and they had, I had like a $20 gift card and I grabbed a Mega, a Bowman Mega for $40 or $50 or whatever it is. Ended up paying 30, and I ended up hitting a Connor Griffin auto, and it was awesome and I was very happy about it. But at the same time, it was a friendly reminder that when you get that hit and you get that excitement, the dopamine comes rushing back. The same cycle can repeat. So you have to be very, very cautious, right? Dopamine isn't about enjoyment. It's about pursuit. It teaches your brain that relief is just one action away. And once you start to get sucked back in, it can be very, very dangerous, especially for people with, addictive tendencies. So
yeah, I mean, like anything, I think you need moderation. And I think, people should, if you can afford it, do what you need to do within reason, I guess. And if you can't, then, that gets scarier because now you're not taking care of other things in priority, I guess. So yeah, I mean, for sure, in moderation, if you can, when you can.
Yeah. I try to carry forward and set an example for what intentional collecting can look like if done so responsibly, right? With that being said, I have my lived experience of being a recovering gambling addict as well as a compulsive collector and impulsive spender. So I personally have to be extra careful, right? Like if you're looking at our different lanes, the intentional collecting versus abstinence, while collecting has been a part of me my entire life, somebody like myself and my profile might gravitate towards the abstinence lane, right? Because it makes more sense. I'm not gambling anymore. I haven't gambled in years because I know I can't have a healthy relationship with it. I've self-excluded.
In general, gambling is not made to win.
Well, yeah, but people,
it's entertainment. So
people think that they're gonna, be the lucky one. Anyway,
you could, but the odds are you're not.
Yeah, of course. The odds are never in your favor. The house always wins, and the same thing applies to the hobby, just exponentially more so. So
spend what you can on entertainment.
Yeah. So back to the blind boxification. When systems are designed around unpredictability and excitement, what role can tools like HobbyScan play in helping collectors stay grounded?
What was the first part of that question?
When systems are designed around unpredictability and excitement, what role can tools like HobbyScan play in helping collectors stay grounded?
I think it's just about trying to give you data on what you're holding, I guess, on what you have. And I think we could definitely do a lot more things and do a better job of that. You're making me think of like things I need to do, but for the most part, it's really just trying to efficiently arm you with financial data on what you have or what you're looking for.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, how do you see technology either amplifying or balancing those mechanics? I kind of already asked you this question, but if you want to add anything else on that topic.
How do I see it balancing it?
Yeah, like we kind of touched on this already, but the technology can either, speed things up or slow things down, depending on how you approach it. So how does HobbyScan sort of help slow things down? I'll sort of reword the question.
How does it slow things down? I don't know. I don't know if that's been a role we're thinking about, really. I mean, I think, you're making me even think like, do people need like parental controls on app permission times and stuff like that?
Yeah,
Like
they do.
for people that are voluntarily saying, hey, I want a hand here, you know.
Yeah, some people definitely do need that, and that's one thing we always talk about.
Yeah, I wonder if you need help building it, and if it's doable, let me know. But I wonder if you wanted to create some sort of like permission app that people can opt in on and be like, I'm gonna let you monitor how long I could be on this, or I'm gonna
iOS has that. iOS allows you to set limits on your. I don't know about Android.
No,
but I
no,
know iOS does.
iOS does, but then you're in control of your own system. But if I was like on your app
I
for
see.
MD, and I was saying that like some parental, because there are parental third-party apps that allow the
Right.
parent, which is your organization, you
Right.
know, access to whatever limited amount of apps. I don't want to go too far into it, but I'm saying,
no, it's all good.
you know, some
We
people might be
do-
like, help me out, you know, pause me more, you know.
Yeah, we work with Gamban. They're an app blocking software that you could download on your phone to block gambling related apps.
Okay.
And
So that
those
exists.
apps
Yeah.
now, like
Oh, blocks it completely.
they've added Whatnot, they've added Fanatics, they've added eBay, they've added Loop. I don't know if Arena Club has an app, but you can't go to the site if you have Gambit on your phone. But it does, you know, you could set it. It's like a cool off period. It's not like permanent, like self exclusion, where
Right.
you know it's 1 year or 5
Timeout.
years or you know forever. Yeah, it's like a timeout, and you know it's software that you can download on your phone and say, all right, I need to cool off. I can't end up in this cycle again. I'm going to take 30 days, and I won't be able to you know sign up or you know use the apps. And another thing worth mentioning is that Whatnot very quietly created their own version of guardrails recently, and they rolled them out, I want to say in December, where you can now set time limits within the Whatnot app, or not just time limits, but deposit limits, which again, it's important. Not deposit limits, spending limits. But yeah, that's a huge step. And, you know, I'm very hopeful that at some point we'll have the opportunity to, at the very least, start having conversations with the big players, the Whatnots, the Fanatics, the eBays, in order to, you know, again, expand the messaging. And it's not a matter of like blowing up Collectors MD, making it huge, or, you know, clout, or, you know, turning me into a hobby celebrity or anything like that.
No, you have good intention. You've been through something and no, I get it. That's awesome. Out of all of those like live bidding apps, which one do you think does, I guess, the best job of what you're looking for?
They're all the same. I mean, they all have the same mechanics. I think Whatnot is the most out of control, not necessarily because of you know the way they have their company set up, more so just like the fact that the infrastructure has allowed so many sellers, and a lot of these sellers are going rogue. They're crashing out. They're doing things that are malicious. And again, Whatnot doesn't have control over specific sellers, just like Amazon doesn't have control over, you know, people that sell on Amazon or eBay.
But you think they should like come down on them harder and not, you know?
Yeah, I think there needs to be a better process in terms of monitoring activity, because usually what it takes is a YouTuber or an influencer to create a reel of some video of a guy crashing out on Whatnot in order for Whatnot to actually take action. And I've seen some sick, twisted things going on there beyond just throwing cards or bending slabs or things like that. There's been some really, really horrific things going on the platform. Like YouTube, for instance. YouTube can't control every single person that signs up and uploads content, but they have a really, really good algorithm that prevents, you know, sensitive content to end up on the platform. And I think Whatnot needs to take a page out of, you know, the playbook, that whatever, you know, how YouTube has figured it out. Same thing with Facebook. I mean, X is kind of the Wild West. Anybody can post anything on there. It's always been like that. Even
what breakers do you have in your network?
We have a lot of breakers in our network now. We're working with, and I showed you Cards HQ, but we're also working with Rip Hamilton Rips. They're
I like them.
Breakers on Whatnot. They are partnered with Trace and Chase, which is a hobby shop here in Jersey. Santiago Sports has been endorsing what we're doing. They're about 10 minutes away from where I live.
I like the Prestige Pulls guys.
Yeah, there's so many breakers that we're talking
They
to.
do a good job. I enjoy them.
We're working with Rip and Wax, Bodega Cards. There's also a lot of hobby brands.
Oh, Rip and Wax. That guy's awesome.
Chris, yeah.
Chris He's awesome.
Yeah. So I want to keep us on track just because I know you gotta pick up your kids in a few minutes, right?
For sure. What time is it? 3:10?
So we have 2 segments left. I'm gonna try to hit the turbo button so we can get through them. Okay, so next segment is building the future of the hobby. You're also preparing to open a card shop soon, which you've mentioned. That's a really impressive and amazing accomplishment for anybody to be able to, open a brick and mortar store in any capacity, especially in such a competitive landscape like the hobby. So you're moving from software into a physical hobby space. What inspired you to do that?
Well, like Bergie's is where I get cards, and then Marco Piemonte from Breakpoint is involved in HobbyScan also. And I wanted to build our inventory management system, and I want to build it in one of their stores, but you can't really stop people's operations and like build software around how I think a store could function, because I look at like, some of the shops and I'm like, you don't even know what's out here. Like there's cards everywhere. And for me, that drives me crazy. Yeah. So on like a personal level, I need to solve my own personal situation of wanting to solve knowing what's on the floor, no matter if they're even just singles, knowing what's on the floor and then having the pricing be dynamic. There's no prices on anything, and so for my obsession of wanting to solve that with technology in a community, in an environment where people are going up and purchasing from their phones, I have to do it myself.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah, just having a little bit more control, I think is
for R&D.
Yeah, no, it makes complete sense. So what do you hope collectors feel when they walk into your shop for the first time?
Well, aesthetically, it's going to be very appealing, I believe, as far as like minimalist. Like I don't like too much distraction or like too much, you'll see, but it's going to be pretty minimalist, and it's going to have a lot of cards on the walls, and it's going to have some cozy areas and some fun stuff too. But I want it to be very clean and minimalist, and I want there to be so many cards there, but there's going to be order in the sense of like they're accounted for, and the pricing is dynamic on your phone. And so for me, it's kind of like this. It's like a modern museum, right? I mean, like, I think cards should be displayed like that in a sense, and it kind of becomes our office and our hub to buy and sell cards and just have our community feel there and just enjoy doing R&D around the hobby.
Yeah, absolutely. And last question on this segment: when you zoom out and think about the future of the hobby, what do you hope it becomes, let's say in the next 5 years?
In the next 5 years, I mean, I do enjoy all of like the non-money, like nostalgia, fuzzy stuff about cards, but I also do enjoy the fact that like a lot of these pieces can be scarce and can be valuable, and I do like that to be generational too. I think this is an interesting time, just from the little that I know as far as like things merging together, and there's going to be a bunch of cards of value that might be shaken off, but there's something interesting happening where we're kind of doubling down on the physical. And not too long ago, we were talking about like NFTs and virtual cards, and that didn't really stick. And so this is like an interesting time of tech surrounding the physical in an intense way that I think is going to be here to stay generationally. Because I mean, we're talking about like culture. I mean, cards to me is like, and I know people can say the same thing or not, but like it's like a real life, I guess stock market of people you're rooting for. You know what I mean? Like, your team, your player, and so that stuff is awesome. And I think the merger of like the physical and the real life of playing sports, and the physical memory in your hand, and obviously I'm a geek about it. I love it. It's awesome. So I don't know if I answered properly, but I think in 5 years, I think it's going to be, I'm sure it'll go through its cycles. You know what I mean? Like anything, but I think it's definitely here I think it's definitely here to be something that's going to be taken pretty seriously, as far as something you hand down to generations.
Yeah. And just to piggyback off that, because from our seat where we sit, a healthier ecosystem is what we're striving for, right, with the work we're doing. So I want to remind people who are watching, the best hobby spaces are really built around the people, not transactions, right? When the focus is on the relationships, the shared stories, and the enjoyment of collecting, the hobby feels so much more meaningful and sustainable. Cards become a way to connect with others rather than just something to flip or chase. And so the communities that last the longest really tend to be the ones where people show up for each other, not just the next sale. So yeah, for us, it's about kind of peeling back the layers a bit, slowing things down, taking advantage of modern day technology in a healthy, sustainable way, so that we can all proceed with intention and continue to collect responsibly. So last segment, we have a rapid fire round. I'm going to ask you a question. You're going to hit me with the first honest thought that comes to mind. You ready?
Yeah.
A card you still remember pulling as a kid?
Oh, as a kid, I mean, I love the hologram Jordan. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
That one is I think the coolest from when I was a kid.
They call that lenticular.
It's not the lenticular, which I know that word only because I was researching posters for that.
It was like hollow.
It's the hologram one.
Yeah,
but lenticular is a little different than the hologram, isn't it?
I'm not sure.
You're probably right, because lenticular, whatever that word is, I was looking at things. It's it has more grain in there as far as a print.
I know what card you're talking about, though.
That's
one.
Yeah.
One tool every collector should use.
One tool?
Yeah. I'm giving you a layup.
HobbyScan. I mean, obviously,
And how can people find HobbyScan?
The App Store, HobbyScan, one word, iOS or Android, hobbyscan.com.
Awesome.
If you ping me, I'll give you a free pro account. You don't have to pay for it.
Cool. Something the hobby gets right that isn't getting enough attention right now.
Something the hobby gets right that isn't getting enough attention right now. That isn't getting enough attention. I don't know. There's so much going on. My brain is, I mean, you need more attention, obviously, right? There it is.
Thank you.
MD.
Collectors MD. One word you'd want collectors to use or to, follow or carry with them in their collecting journeys to slow down and, really be able to think and reflect.
Well, I think it's really about collect what you love. If you're just chasing things for money, it's kind of it doesn't feel good. It's not going to end well. I don't think, depending on how you look at it, I'm going into business where I have to buy a bunch of cards and sell a bunch of cards. Obviously it's a different phase. I'm not really a card seller, but the intention, of somebody just focus on what you love, the money shows up if that's what you're looking for. I mean, you love stuff and you are trying to collect what you love. I'm sure, at the very least, if you don't have a huge value, you at least have the, value that's invaluable, where it's I love this card. And then if you have both, that's amazing, but don't go chasing everything, or else you don't really love it. You're just, trying to win.
Well said. And lastly, if someone listening wants to enjoy the hobby without getting overwhelmed by it, what's one simple thing they can start doing today?
For buying cards?
Anything hobby related, just in terms of enjoyment and,
I think those dollar bins are sleepers, man. There's, those are fun, and they're just, they're fun to go through, and a lot of the shops have them, and just fiddling through those and grabbing some cards, and you'd be surprised what's in there a lot. But I think that's a fun way to do it. A lot of the wax is, super expensive sometimes, and I think the dollar bins, there's sometimes 20s and 30s and whatever. I'm just trying to say it's a low point of entry that allows you to spend a lot of time and go through and enjoy, collecting, because a lot of us like the process,
Totally.
So if you can enjoy the hunt, digging through those for free and find something you like, that's a fun way to do it.
Absolutely. There's so many gems out there, with the volume of cards and sets that come out every single week. You could find color matches of, superstar players, maybe, your team, your favorite athlete. And, they're only a couple bucks. I saw recently a purple scope mosaic of Justin Jefferson, perfect color match. It was like $3 on eBay. And if that card was numbered to 20, it'd be $50, right? So, my piggybacking off of what you just said is, don't worry about the serial number on the back. Don't worry about the scarcity. If you're in love with how the card looks, regardless of monetary value, and it means something to you and you connect with it, by all means, just, make sure you're staying within your means.
For sure. I appreciate it.
Phillip, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your perspective. Before we wrap, I want people to know where they can continue following your work. Again, Phillip is the founder of HobbyScan, a platform helping collectors identify value and list cards through a streamlined workflow designed to make the hobby easier to navigate. If you want to check out the platform or download the app, you can find all of those links in the description below. And if this episode resonated with you, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need it to help us keep pushing this conversation forward and join the ongoing conversation about healthier participation, intentional storytelling, and sustainable culture in the hobby landscape and beyond. The goal isn't to slow the hobby down. It's to support and protect what actually makes it meaningful, which is the people in it. If you're feeling torn between loving the hobby and feeling overwhelmed by it, Collectors MD is here as a free resource. We host free weekly peer support meetings every Wednesday from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern and a Thursday meeting from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern in partnership with the Problem Gambling Coalition of Colorado called Unboxed, powered by Collectors MD. You can find all of our content, tools, resources, and support offerings at collectorsmd.com. Be sure to subscribe to the Collectors Compass on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and all major streaming platforms. And check out our other shows, Behind the Breaks and Collectors MD Features. I'm Alyx Efron. This is the Collectors Compass, reminding you to collect with intention, not compulsion. See you next time.